You're 14 years old, herding goats on a dust-blown hill outside your village in southern France. The sun's cruel overhead, and your only break is bread so hard it cracks your tooth. You dream of bigger things, of cities and coin and glory, but you're dirt poor, barefoot, and invisible. Then one day the priest calls the whole village to the square. A man in a crimson robe stands on a cart, shouting about Jerusalem. About Christ's tomb being in danger. About salvation. He says God wills it. He says heaven awaits those who fight. And then he says the Pope has declared, all sins forgiven if you join the crusade. Your older brother grabs your arm, he's going. Your mother cries. Your father grunts and hands you his only knife. You're not a soldier, not yet. But you want to matter. You want to escape this dust and goat shit life. So you go. The road is long. Hundreds of you march east, farmers, blacksmiths, thieves. No one really knows where Jerusalem is. You sleep in ditches. You eat rats. Sometimes you don't eat at all. A baron rides past in shining mail, barely glancing at you. His horse eats better than you do. When the wind changes, you smell rot, corpses in the grass from another army that passed before. Some nights, boys your age don't wake up. Some mornings, they're just gone, taken by fever, wolves, or worse. You keep walking. Your feet blister. Your faith cracks. But you keep going. You reach Constantinople, and it's like nothing you've ever seen, marble domes, silk banners, gold. But the locals hate you. They slam doors. They hide their food. You're not holy warriors to them. You're a swarm of beggars with rusty swords. The emperor lets you pass, barely. You cross the Bosphorus and into lands that don't speak your tongue. Turks ride like ghosts through the hills. They don't fight like you, no lines, no chivalry. Just arrows in the dark, screams, and vanishing hooves. You see your first real battle in Anatolia. The sun rises blood red. A horn sounds. Men charge. You're in the middle, heart pounding, gripping your knife like it'll save you. Then a scream, your friend's neck torn open by an arrow. You fall. Not from a wound, just fear. You piss yourself. You survive, barely. You learn quickly. Don't sleep too deep. Don't trust strangers. Don't walk on the outside of the column. You loot a corpse for a better blade. You stop praying so much. God doesn't answer anyway. A priest says this is a test of faith. But you watch him hoard wine and sleep under furs while the rest of you freeze. Winter comes. Snow piles up. Men die with their eyes open. You roast dead mules over stolen fires. You've forgotten what bread tastes like. You've forgotten your brother's face. He was killed back in Dorylaeum, his body never found. You think you cried. You're not sure anymore. Then, Antioch. A walled city like a crown on a hill. You're told it's the gateway to the Holy Land. You lay siege with the others. Weeks turn into months. The stink of rotting bodies seeps into your clothes. Starvation sets in. You eat shoe leather, rats, sometimes worse. You see a knight bite into a corpse's thigh. He weeps while chewing. You don't judge. You might be next. When Antioch falls, it's not a triumph, it's a frenzy. You rush through alleys hacking anything that moves. Women. Children. Doesn't matter. The city runs red. Your hands shake for hours afterward. You wash them, again and again, but the blood's still there. You're 16 now. You've survived more than any boy should. They call you a veteran. You don't feel like one. You feel hollow. Your body is a map of scars. You barely remember your old name. They call you by your father's, now, because the one you were is buried under mud and ash somewhere in Anatolia. The march resumes. South, always south. The land grows hotter. Flies cling to your face. Water is life now, more precious than coin, or even God. You'd kill for a sip. Some do. Then, Jerusalem. The city gleams on the horizon, ringed in walls as thick as a castle. You stop and stare, because this is it. The end of the road. The reason you left home. Trumpets blare. Leaders give speeches. God wills it, they shout again. But you don't feel holy. You feel like a weapon someone else is swinging. Still, when the signal comes, you charge. The walls loom. Arrows fall like hail. A rock shatters your shield. A ladder splinters beneath you, men tumbling like dolls. You climb anyway. You don't know how. You just do. You're one of the first over the wall. A Turk swings at you, you duck, stab, feel his body fall. More pour in. You fight like a man. Not for God. For survival. For meaning. For the brother you lost. Hours pass. Maybe days. You lose time. Then, the gates fall. The army surges in. And the massacre begins. There's no mercy. The city's sacred stones run with blood. You walk past heaps of corpses, knights laughing, children screaming. You stab a man in his sleep. You don't know why. It's just easier than listening to him beg. Later, you find a well and puke until your stomach's empty. You thought victory would feel like salvation. It feels like rot. Like something inside you curled up and died. You're 17 now, living in Jerusalem. Not as a knight, not even a squire. Just another killer with a sword. You guard a wall, sweat through chainmail, and trade relics for bread. The church bells ring every morning, but you don't go anymore. You've seen too much. Sometimes you dream of goats and dust, and your mother's stew. Then you wake to the stink of unwashed men and the groan of the sick. You think of going home. But where is that now? Would they even know you? Would they want to? A new army arrives, fresh from Europe. Pale, clean, loud. They call you a hero. They say you're part of something bigger, a holy legacy. You don't believe them. Not anymore. But you smile and nod. You tell stories that make them cheer. You leave out the hunger. The screams. The eyes of the boy you stabbed who looked just like your brother. You're 19. The Turks return. They've regrouped. Stronger now. The new knights panic. You don't. You've bled too much to flinch. You ride out with a handful of others, half-mad survivors who've forgotten how to fear. The battle is a blur of dust and steel. You take a spear through the thigh and keep fighting. Later, in a tent, a monk sews you up with a needle black with grime. You don't scream. You've forgotten how. Word spreads that the Pope's called another crusade. You laugh. Not because it's funny, but because they still think this is about God. You know better. It's land. Power. Revenge. Faith died somewhere back in Antioch, choked under a pile of corpses. You don't tell the others. You let them believe. It's Kinder. You're 21. A veteran. A killer. A crusader. And you still don't know what you want. You walk the streets of Jerusalem, sword at your hip, ghost at your heels. Every stone whispers a name you'd rather forget. You're not a boy anymore. You're a relic, living proof of a holy war that hollowed out its own champions. And deep down, you wonder, was paradise ever really the point? Or were you always just a weapon, carved from hunger and hope, flung across the world for someone else's dream? Because you reached the end of the road, and all you found was dust. You're 23 when the truce collapses. A Saracen warlord with eyes like obsidian cuts through the coast like fire. The garrisons crumble. Cities fall. Word comes fast, he's heading for Jerusalem. The king calls for every sword. You answer because what else is left? This land is soaked with your blood, your brother's blood. You won't hand it over without a fight. The air hangs thick with dread. The new recruits fumble with buckles and prayers. You sharpen your blade in silence. You've done this before. The night before battle, you sit by a fire, staring into the flames. You think of your old village, the taste of goat's milk, the sound of your mother's humming. You think of your brother. You think of God. And then you stop. Because none of them ever answered you. The battle hits like a thunderclap. Arrows darken the sky. Siege towers roll forward. You scream orders. The new ones break fast, running, dying. You hold your line. You hold the gate. Your arms ache, blood slicks your grip, and still you swing. For hours. For lifetimes. Then, retreat. They pull back, not broken, just testing. They'll come again. Stronger. You're wounded, again. A gash down your ribs that burns like hell. No healer. Just rags and grit. You press iron to the wound. You don't cry out. You dream of fire. You wake with teeth clenched and a sword still in your hand. Weeks pass. Supplies dwindle. Water tastes of copper. Men talk of surrender. You don't. You've buried too much to quit now. Then word spreads, your king has left. Fled in the night like a thief. The nobles squabble. The gates weaken. The people look to you now. Not because they love you. Because they're scared, and you've survived what they haven't. And then, one morning, the banners rise again. The enemy's returned, this time with thousands. The horns wail. You mount the wall. You know it's over. But you fight anyway. Not for glory. Not for God. Just to make it cost them something. Just so they remember you. The wall shatters. Fire floods the sky. You fall back, alley by alley, sword swinging on instinct. Around you, knights burn, civilians scream, the city groans in death. A Saracen finds you in a church. You're too tired to fight. You raise your sword. He hesitates. Then nods. Walks away. You collapse on the stones. They say you're spared because of your age. Because you fought with honor. You're chained, not killed. One of thousands march out barefoot, heads bowed, past the rubble of a city you once called holy. They call it liberation. You call it an ending. You're 25, a prisoner sold as a servant in Damascus. You tend stables. Muck horses. Sleep on straw. The locals stare. Not with hate. With pity. They see what's left, a hollow-eyed ghost with a limp and silence stitched into his bones. You don't speak much. You don't have much to say. One day, a merchant offers you coin to fight, in his name. Not for God, for gold. You say no. Not because you're noble. Because you've buried enough strangers. Instead, you scrub floors and listen to children laugh in a language you barely know. Sometimes you smile. Sometimes you don't. Years pass. Jerusalem becomes a word, not a place. The cross fades from your neck, worn down to a sliver. You hear rumors of another crusade. More boys from Europe marching east, full of fire and lies. You wonder if your village sent anyone. If their mothers cried like yours. If their brothers bled like yours did. You're 30 when a man from Genoa recognizes your face in a market. Says you were a legend once. A hero of the First Crusade. You don't correct him. Let him believe. Let someone believe. He offers you passage home. A ship sails next month. You say you'll think about it. That night you stare at the stars, remembering a sky over France. You think of the path back. Of what you'd find. If anyone's left. If you'd even belong. Then you think of the sea. Of forgetting. Of starting again. And you realize you don't know what you want anymore. You watch the ship leave without you. You stay. You marry a local widow. She doesn't ask about your scars. You help raise her son. You teach him how to hold a blade, not to kill, but to protect. He laughs easily. He calls you father. You're 42 when he asks what the crusade was for. You pause. Then say, "It was a long road to nowhere." He nods like he understands. Maybe he does. Maybe that's enough. You die in your sleep, years later, buried in the hills above the city you once helped burn. No cross. No epitaph. Just a patch of earth and the memory of a man who walked across continents for a dream that never arrived. No saints. No glory. Just you, and the dirt, and a silence deep enough to finally rest in. Because your life as a crusader wasn't a hymn. It wasn't a sermon. It was a wound. And history moved on while you were still bleeding.